What's going on with you, man?
Man, I'm chilling, man. I'm chilling. What's going on with you, bro? I had sent a message.
Oh, nothing.
I had sent a message earlier to you on Twitter. I know. I think it was like yesterday. I sent. No, it might have been today on Twitter.
You know,
I never.
cause I never got it.
Yeah,
Yup.
I see. I see. It says wasn't sent. Something like that. I'm like, what? I thought it said sent on it, and it wasn't sent. I think
You know
it
why?
must have went out of range or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they know what we talking about on here, man. They monitoring and all. So it ain't no thing. I'm used to it. And yeah, man, cause we had a space yesterday, me and the brother Roy, and he dropped some hot jewels yesterday.
Yeah.
So I said, man, we gonna do it again today. Cause man, man, after interviewing you, I think I'm getting pretty good with the questions, man. Straight up, man. I'm like, man, I'm getting pretty good. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. Look, I'm glad you're here. And how you doing today, my brother?
Yeah, I'm trying to hang tight, man. You know what I'm saying? My baby niece just passed away about two.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, she was only 3 years old. Had a battle with
Oh
Yeah, had a battle with
man.
cancer. So yeah, man. So it's tough. It's tough on the family, especially the parents. You know what I'm saying? It's tough on the family though, because this was like really unexpected. It was just like one of those things, man, where it was just she was within a month. Like the cancer had spread and got so it was so aggressive within a month. She was gone. I just saw her in June. And then in the last couple of times I've been seeing her, it's been in the hospital, but then it was aggressive. It was really aggressive, man. And her body she had too many procedures. I wouldn't say she had too many procedures, but she had a lot for a 3 year old. And she was a small 3 year old, so it was like too much for her body that her body was able to take, man. And she unfortunately passed. So yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
yeah,
I really feel like that's gonna be part of the topic today.
yeah.
The mass confusion and anti-blackness. I really feel like our numbers, they're trying to make our numbers dwindle because their numbers are not adding up. And I feel like they're putting a lot of chaos out there and confusion. And we can't focus on the younger generation coming behind us because they're battling cancers and all these different diseases that growing up in the 70s and the 80s wasn't big diseases then. Remember, you got cancer when you was in your 70s.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was a long time before you would even deal with something like that. And now it's like, oh, you can get it as a baby, or you could be born with it as a baby, or all these different shots and immunizations have it in there. So I really do, man. I'm sorry to hear that. My condolences to your peoples, man. And you, man, you're a great uh, thought leader to me, and they're gonna really lean on you for guidance, man. 'Cause you know what it is and it's about, man. So my positive energy will be with you to help your peoples. And with you saying that, man, that's the first question that I want to get into. Do you feel this confusion? Where do you feel this confusion is coming from? When I mean confusion, you got these white mass shooters with the anti-blackness, and then you have people basically just coming out and calling us niggas and treating us bad, and you got the police killing us, and then you have the unfortunate, timing of your niece joining the ancestors. Where do you think all this is coming from?
Um, in all honesty, I think it's coming from a place. Pardon me. Let me let these windows up. I'm in my car. Let me let these windows up. I don't want the noise to interfere. Yeah, I don't want this noise to interfere. Let me just let this one up. All right. Yeah. So what I think, man, um, what it all comes down to, brother, is This confusion is honestly coming from the greatest um, confusion, um, the leaders of confusion. You know, which of course would be racism, white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? That's where it would come from. Um, we don't if you leave, I've often said, man, if you leave these other race groups alone, black people, and I'll talk specifically about black people. You leave black people alone for 50 years, we're going to build. We're not going to be seeking to destroy each other, because we will realize that it's all about numbers and it's about building. Now, at this point in time in 2022, if you do that, you know, you still going to have some youngins, or you're still going to have some type of criminal activity, but it's still going to, it'll die down. For the most part, black people will build. We've shown this time and time again. You can go down the line and see it throughout our history. You can see it now. Black people will build. The whole thing is, those other people, these whites, they won't leave us alone. So even if we were to build, left us alone, they're still going to come back around seeking to confuse. And how would they do that? Of course, by infiltration, right? They're not going to come, you know, with their horns showing, right? If we could see the devil with his horns showing, and he's trying to, I guess, tempt us, what they would say, then nobody's going to run something like that. But when you infiltrate and confuse the people amongst yourself, you confuse the people amongst yourself, um, amongst your own group, then you understand that the destruction is easier to have done within our community, simply because you know, it'll be labeled black on black crime. And just to talk specifically about crime, right?
I think we lost him. Man, he was just getting good. I think we lost you, my brother. That was some real stuff that he was saying. We're gonna see if we can kind of get him back.
Right? We don't own any one of them. So if we don't own any one of those nine, which would be economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sexual relations, you know, any of those areas, then we don't control any of those areas. Therefore, we don't have any say so as to how it's built, um, or how it's infiltrated into our neighborhood and to our community. As black people, you see, they could put the guns in our hand, but we don't have to. We don't have to shoot our brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? They can deprive us of our jobs, and now we have to struggle to pay our rent, but we don't have to rob our brother and sister, you know what I'm saying, to get that money to take care of our family. We don't have to do that, right? But they place us in this system. They changed the system, and they placed us in a system in which we got to play by their rules. But then once we bounce out of their system, again, they send one of their own, or they'll infiltrate the group simply by hiring one of ours to cause this confusion. And now we call it black on black crime, which I think is a confusion statement all by itself. No such thing as black on black crime. And I can prove it. No such thing as black on black crime. You have white on black crime. And you have, every time a black person kills or takes the life of another black person aimlessly, easily, with no remorse, they are engaging in the same behavior of the folks that control their environment, which is racism, white supremacy. And notice, Warren G, I didn't say racism and white supremacy, because as Dr. Cress Wilson says, racism is white supremacy. So to say and is to separate the two as if they're two different entities when it's one. So this mass confusion going on black crime, black on black abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. There's a lack of black love within our black relationships. This has all been taught to black people to do. See, we see the end result of the Willie Lynch letter. Right? The Willie Lynch letter was an institution for racism and white supremacy. For this white supremacists, the people who think they control the globe. Right? Nearly Fuller says we got it backed up that we think it's just the Western Hemisphere. We're talking about globally. Right? So these are the folks who controls the globe in all 9 activities, right? All 9 areas of activity. And so when you take a close look at this situation with the abuse, with verbal abuse and physical abuse, molestation and everything within the black community, all of this criminal activity within the black community, my thing is that from taking a close look at it, you can see that this was something that was taught to us, because when you take a look further back, before the Willie Lynch, before slavery, you can see that black people engaged in a harmonic type of behavior. We were harmony. We had harmony amongst each other. Now we don't. Of course, a lot of betrayal and things like that has taken place, even amongst our own. But that Willie Lynch letter was the institution. It was a school for the whites. We are seeing the results of it, right? Like the Jim Crow and segregation, all of that, black codes. We started seeing the end result of it. So we tried to tackle those things individually. But the white man has said we ain't got no laws or rules in which they are bound to respect. So they're going to continuously combat whatever rights we think we have to serve in their best interest to keep them, their group, on top. And to further that, they're using these brown people to engage in the same type of activity. You know what I'm saying? So
Hold on. I'm glad you spoke about that. I really want to get into that because I feel that's part of the confusion. I was talking on the space with my brother Roy yesterday, and he's in LA, so he was giving his perspective. If anybody else wants to speak in this space, man, just let me know. Y'all are welcome to speak as well. But hey, David, give me your perspective on the black and the brown. And why do you think it's confusion? Why do you think it's confusion?
the brown people that they're referring to now, it's really it's funny because it's kind of difficult to explain. It's similar to trying to explain critical race theory. It's like you really can't explain it. You could just kind of sum it up. What I would say, Warren G, these brown people, mass confusion, but it's not nothing new. We've seen this before with the so-called Native Americans, and as always, I always like to correct that by saying so-called, because black people are the original natives here in all of the Americas, South America, North America, all of the Americas. But when speaking about the Native American folks that we know that we're taught about in school and everything, and all like that, these people sided up with the Confederates here in the South. North Carolina, Georgia, and everything. In South Carolina, they sided up with the Confederates when the Confederates were fighting. I mean, both Union and the Confederates, I mean, they were both, North and the South were both fighting to keep slavery alive. Nobody was trying to really dead slavery off, in all honesty. But these Confederates had help, and they had help because of the fact that they were running the war. Not only because they were blacks participating, right? You also had these Native Americans, the brown people. You know, these were the folks that they were about to nominate the 5 civilized tribes. These Native Americans were the ones who were in charge of keeping the black folks in check. But they looked like us. They were brown. They were black. They looked like us, but they weren't us. These were a different breed of people. They were not the same black that wanted freedom, that wanted liberation. The same black that wanted to kill his slave master. This was not that type of black within that native. They used them and said, okay, we're going to make you guys civilized. We're going to give you land, tools, and resources as long as you side up with us. And when those black folks want to escape from the plantations, we can't go to the north because of the fact that you have this Fugitive Slave Act, that law that's in act. So we technically can't run over border lines. We can't go Macy-Dixie lines, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to send you guys, right? And we're sending you in special packages, things like that. Or you guys know the land. This is the white folks talking to the natives now. You guys know the land better than we do because we don't till to the land. We've stood on a front porch, or we had our night watchers circle around the plantation, but we never knew the land. The natives knew the land. So when black folks escaped, it was the natives who was bringing them back, running out and capturing them. They don't have any borders, no limits. They can cross the line and they can bring the blacks back. And they would be rewarded. Notorious manumission, bro. They would be rewarded. They'll be rewarded money. If you brought them back, if you brought the black back alive, they'll be rewarded about $25 and high and up. That was a lot of money back then in the 1800s. But they'll be rewarded. These are the folks that we say we feel bad for because these are the same folks that was exterminated and removed from their land. But we don't understand these 5 civilized tribes, these Chickasaw, Cherokee, Seminole, like these are the people that was actually working against black folks and helping and aiding the Confederates and the Union to keep us in bondage. Not only that,
Ooh.
they had slaves themselves. Again, this is the brown people at the time. That's modern. That was back then. But now you look at it modern day. They're saying, okay, we're going to use these Middle Easterns, these Latinos, these South Americans. We're going to use all these guys, and we're going to civilize them as long as they side up with us. So you claim white on your census. That's their form of allegiance with them. They are the new civilized tribes. That's the way I see it.
All right. Now, look. Look. Hold that thought. Now, my sister, we're gonna get Lioness Crown. What do you think about what he just said and my question? Hold that thought, David. But I want to see what this sister thinks about what you said because that was good. What do you think about that, my sister?
I'm still learning. I'm taking it all in. I'm like, wow. So I just learned a lot. But I definitely do know that plays into the mass confusion in terms of who we are, who we've been told that we are within the concept of the United States, and our indigenous heritage, as well as our ancestors who emanated from slavery, and how they continue to use, like, oh, the Native Americans who were exterminated are actually the Mexicans, and they're coming back to reclaim their land and all of this stuff. So yes, and yes, if that answers your question. Also, brother, I want to thank you, FBA All Day, for having me come up. I saw the topic, mass confusion and anti-blackness. I teach a Black Studies course. And so my students, we met tonight and we went over chapter 12 of the ISIS Papers. Chapter 12 of the ISIS Papers, the title of it is called Black Fear, but more
Okay,
specifically,
I'm sorry, sister. I don't want to interrupt, but you're dropping real jewels right now, and I just want you to explain to us about the ISIS papers from your perspective and what you're teaching. Explain that so we can know. I'm not saying that everybody that's Black doesn't know about the ISIS papers, but there are a lot of us out there that don't know who the author is and what the book is about. Can you kind of touch on that really quick?
Absolutely. Sorry, I was on mute. So, The ISIS Papers is a book written by our ancestor, the great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She used to teach at Howard University. I'm from DC. Howard is literally like in the backyard of the neighborhood I grew up in. I went to high school directly across the street from Howard, and I took courses over there when I was in high school. But the ISIS Papers is a collection of Dr. Welsing's essays, and she was a Black psychiatrist, and her mentor was I call him Doctor Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who has his Produce Justice radio program every Tuesday morning on Blog Talk, and you can go to producejustice.com. And he wrote the compensatory code system and concept. And also the word guy. And so y'all can tap into the elder. He's almost 100 years old. He's still kicking. He's dropping jewels. And so Mr. Fuller was Dr. Welsing's mentor. And so she's taking his work. She took his work and she wrote a bunch of different essays on a lot of different topics, from Black children to the concept of what racism, white supremacy is on a psychological level, as well as like symbols that white men use in sports, everything from sports to pipes to cigars, and how all of this stuff is rooted in their fear of genetic annihilation. So that's the gist of what the ISIS Papers is, but these are her collection of essays, and she is in these essays discussing the Black condition, the Black mental condition, and explaining what our thought, behavior, and speech patterns are from a Black psychiatrist perspective. And a lot of her work was rooted in working with Black children, actually. So hopefully that answers your question. That's the gist of it. You can go anywhere and find the ISIS Papers. You definitely need to have this book if you haven't read it already. But chapter 12 is what I went over with my study group today, and it's on page 153. And the title of this chapter is really an essay that was written in June 1979. It says Black Fear and the Failure of Black Analytical or Ideological Commitment. And so basically in this chapter, and what we discussed in my study group this evening, is that Dr. Welsing is saying that Black fear is the cause of Black people going against and spending more time targeting other Black people, whether it's Black men going against Black women or Black people going against other Black folks or other victims of white supremacy, because Black folks are collectively afraid to confront the white supremacists, and they are afraid to confront or to buck against the system of white supremacy because they are afraid of death. And those Black men and freedom fighters over the years that have actually put it all on the line to dismantle anti-Black racism, white supremacy, they lost their lives about it. And so she's saying in this particular essay and chapter is that because Black folks have this Black fear of white supremacy, it's something that's not acknowledged. It's not something that is talked about. But until we collectively and individually are able to verbalize this, then we can create linear solutions to solving the problem of our oppression and producing justice. But when we don't do that, we sort of get involved in these circuitous conversations, these conversations that lead to no solutions, that involve complaining, scapegoating, blaming, infighting, bickering, and she calls it squabbling with other Black folks or victims of white supremacy as a time waster. She also talks about, from a psychological perspective, things that we do to sort of also deflect from the real problem, the real issue, which is white supremacy. And some of those things are catching the Holy Ghost in church, for example, or listening to music, or erratically, dancing and doing things that make us feel good and use different parts of our brains because it's caught up in a circuit that just kind of goes around and around instead of it linearly saying, okay, here is the problem. The problem is I have Black fear of white supremacy. Okay, now that I know that, what are the things and what are the steps that I need to take to correct my thought, speech, and behavior patterns in order to produce justice and defeat white supremacy? So she talks about how we need to move from that point to the next point. And the final thing I'll say about this chapter and how we used it in my course this evening is that I related it to a lot of the conversations that are happening on Twitter space. Why is there mass confusion and anti-blackness happening across Twitter? Yeah, people can be agents. Yeah, people can be ops and all of this stuff. But also these conversations that sort of go round and round, people belaboring the same points and talking about the same topics over and over again. I believe Dr. Frances Cress Welsing is right. It is because a lot of people, and I'm not saying everybody, because a lot of these spaces and conversations can be constructive and are actually constructive and justice producing. But when we talk about mass confusion on this level, a lot of people are doing it because they're cowards. A lot of people are doing it because they're lazy. A lot of people are doing it because they're actually not about to go out and put in no work. For real, for real. So it was something that we talked about. We talked about in my course. And the final thing, brother FBA all day and everyone in the space, that I will say is that in this particular chapter in the Theis Papers, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talked about self-respect and group respect. And in order for us to really shift from having these non-constructive conversations, thoughts, and behaviors, we have to have a level of self-respect and respect for our race and our group and our lineage. And when that is absent, right, there's no way that we can defeat any sort of systemic oppression or white supremacy. And an example of that is the way that from my observation, the way that our people talk to each other, the way that we talk to each other, communicate with each other, the name calling, the level of energy and vitriol that shows up. And in my opinion, I'm not here to judge anybody or anything like that. I can only speak for what I do. Self-respect seems to be vacant in a lot of these conversations. And this is something that Dr. Welsing also does hit on, that lack of self-respect or respect for, your fellow brother and sister in terms of the way we get our points across is indicative to, an internalized inferiority complex. I can go on and on and on about this stuff, but I'll land there. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Ooh! Look, you didn't have to stop. David, she on fire, my brother. She's on fire. My sister, I'm about to ask y'all some more questions now. The one thing that I did really appreciate of what you said was how we communicate with each other. My perspective, and I've always told my brother David that's in the space, we do this all the time, we don't have intrinsic value in each other. I challenge everybody this before I ask a question. The next time you see a brother or sister with a nice car, tell them that's a nice car. Watch their reaction. I've been doing that David knows I've been doing that for the last 6-7 months. I got my sister doing it. Just tell them it's nice. Make them understand that you respect them, you value them, and you value their hard work. And when I tell people that, y'all don't understand. I'm on the West Coast, so we real Hollywood over here. It's Holly weird where I am. And let me tell you, when you tell another brother, sister, that's a nice car, like they don't know if I'm gonna rob them. They don't know if I'm hating. You know what I mean? And I had to tell young brother because he didn't know what to say. And I said, look, bro, that car represents your hard work and dedication, and I respect you for that. And after that, me and him had a great conversation because he even said, I didn't know what you was on, because we don't have intrinsic value. So with me saying this, I'm opening it up to the floor. Whoever wants to speak, speak. We'll go David, then we'll go our sister that just spoke. Why is it, and I'm going to ask it again, why is it we have poor communication with each other. But when other racial groups come around, we will side with them. We will agree with them, even when they're dogging our own race out. And we will allow them to piggyback off our culture. Why is it we don't have intrinsic value in each other? David, and then we're going to have our sister go after you. And if anybody else want to speak, go ahead and let me know.
So it's so intrinsic value as far as you're talking about, as far as the way we speak to each other.
Yeah, the way we speak to each other and just the value that we have for each other. I feel like we don't have that value, because if we did, if I saw you, Dave, and I don't know you, and you got a fresh car, and I'm into cars, and I say, brother, I like that car. If you're looking at me crazy, that means there's a lack of empathy and value that we have for each other. Why don't we have that value like all the other racial groups do?
Oh man, so we don't have that value simply because we don't. What it's all what Dr. Amos Wilson says. We don't love each other, right? We don't have a love for each other, and because you don't have a love for each other, you're not going to have a love for yourself. I mean, it's hard, but it's also simple at the same time, because if you love yourself, if you value yourself, then you carry yourself a certain way. You speak a certain way. You have a culture, right? And what's a culture? Culture is made up of ideas, values, and beliefs. So you carry your culture with you, and the next man that approaches you or is around you, the other black folks that are around you, if they carry the same type of culture, you may not agree on every topic, but if you carry that same type of culture, the same concept, the group of ideas, you carry this, then we'll begin to start seeing each other in the way where I can't rob or steal from my brother because that's my brother. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking away from my race. We haven't seen each other in that way because we've been conditioned not to see ourselves in that way. I'm not saying we don't play a part, but I'm saying we've also been conditioned. That's a big part of why we don't have that value, because at one point, blacks had the value. When you take a look at those folks in Rosewood, they didn't have everything. Like, they didn't have a whole bunch of land. They didn't have more land than what like O.W. Gurley and those fellas had up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They bought up a lot of land. Rosewood, they didn't have too much. They had land, but not too much. But what was their mindset? We are a collective. So they had the same group of ideas, the same group of values. You know what I'm saying? The same beliefs. They want to rebuild. So if I take my brother's life, I'm taking away from my nation. I can't take away from my nation. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, what I'm going to do is place into a perspective unity. Now remember, this is the same type of people who was beat, battered, mistreated, everything, all of the above. For years, they have been taught to devalue each other. And now here it is, 50 years later, after so-called emancipation, they're valuing each other. And nobody taught them. That's because it never left. You see, the white supremacy didn't sink deep into our psyche at that point. But now it has, because they're using everything. So we take it and we play a part. It's easy for a black man, as a black man, to see another black man, and in my mind, I dare him to look at my daughter, because if he looks at my daughter, I'm taking his life. You know, black men, they want to protect their children. I'm going to take his life, right? I dare him to look at my wife. I dare, you start contemplating these things in your mind, and this man is not even worried about you. But then if you do get into a little bickering, a little argument, the next logical thing is what Nellie Fuller teaches. What's the next logical thing after an argument? The next logical thing after an argument is a fight. It's easy for black folks to engage in this type of activity. We have family gatherings. We have a nasty bad habit of cracking a certain joke that's personal, that we know is personal to each other. We told nobody else. We told them in secret. And we're going to display this as a joke in front of all family members. You know, we're going to talk about the woman's weight or the man's weight. We're going to do certain things. That's the next logical thing. But if there was a white person in the room and you are best friends with that white person, they told you things in secrecy. When you get around a lot of black folks, even with that white person being there, you wouldn't dare, a black person would not dare to display that type of behavior. Because why? We've been taught and conditioned to value whiteness as supremacy. We've been taught to value blackness as just a thing, as a it. So we have no problem with taking a life from it because it's not even the life of a dog. People value dogs more than they value a black person. So that's a strong look in which I would say that that I've seen, Warren G, is that we've been conditioned. That's number one, because we weren't like this before. But we play a part because even though we become aware and we become very much intellectual and understanding, as a whole, we still continue to do the same thing, which is devalue each other.
My sister, you know I'm gonna hit you. Lioness crown.
Absolutely.
What do you think? Same question. I want you to go in just like he did. Drop that knowledge.
Absolutely. Shout out to the brother No Compromise. I totally agree with that. To build on to that, I would say, I mean, our people, the reason is twofold. One is rewards and consequences on one side, and I'll go into that. And the other thing is individualism, right? So rewards and compromise, we have been conditioned to denigrate other Black people and ourselves, and we have been rewarded in society for doing so. So those Black folks that, disparage other Black people, work to sabotage other Black folks historically have been rewarded. And there have been consequences for disparaging and disrespecting white people and other non-Black folks, whether it be, some sort of corporal punishment, being fired from a job, being excommunicated, not getting resources, etc. So a lot of those, the epic memory, which is, something that Dr. Joy DeGroot talks about in post-traumatic slave syndrome, right? Epigenetics and our ancestral memories that live on in our DNA, and how trauma actually does live inside the psyche and is passed down from generations and generations. And also, within your phenotype and your bloodlines, like we have, distinct hormones and epic memory that has us behave in certain ways as a reflection of our post-traumatic slavery experience, and the epigenetics is created. So we know that also, like a lot of Mr. Fuller talks about the show-offism, showing off in front of white folks or showing off in front of Black folks in a way that disparages Black folks. Therefore, show-offism, showing off your ability to denigrate or disrespect another Black person, showing off your ability to make sexual impressions onto another Black person is a form of showing off your degrees, or what a white person, what white society has allowed you to know and obtain is a show-offism. That's like what people call the boule or the bougie, house Negroes or whatever, or people in academia or whatnot. That's a form of show-offism. Or showing off material objects, showing off the things that white people have allowed you to obtain, right? Be it your car, your house, the clothes you wear, etc., diamond rings, gold, whatever it is, within the context, within the system of white supremacy. That's something that Mr. Fuller talks about. And so that behavior, especially in modern society, has been rewarded. Black people have been rewarded for those show-offisms in politics, education, media, and all of the 9 areas of activity. So when I say rewards and consequences, this is a learned behavior, but then I also know that the consequences of actually having a high level of racial esteem has been, people have gotten consequences from that. And so we remember that as well. We have um, examples of that thrown in our faces all the time of, Black folks being in inferior positions or being tortured for having any ounce of dignity. When I talk about individualism, I think individualism is another reason why we see this sort of behavior. Well, we're mimicking the white man's paradigm and worldview and their cosmology, right? They value objects. They don't care how they get land, money, resources, or whatever. It doesn't have to, it could be dishonorably, right? Through lying, cheating, or stealing. At the end of the day, the white man values objects or the acquisition of wealth and resources. According to our axiology, Black melanated people or African people, Black people, we value relationships.
Okay, stop. Look, sister, you dropping fire. Break down axiology. You got to
So
remember,
axiology.
everybody don't know that. So break that down for us really fast.
All right, you about to make me open up my computer and pull up my chart real quick. So axiology is basically, it's basically the way in which groups of people or races interact with each other and their value system. So all I'm identifying that the white people in white society, according to their cultural axiology, they value resources and material things, objects. Melanated people or African people, Black people on the planet, we value, in our axiology, we value relationships. Relationships are the most valuable thing to us. And so that is why respect and disrespect is so important. Like a Black person will kill you, right, under the threat of disrespect. Our brother, No Compromise, just brought that example up. Like, it's like, yeah, you see another person, you be like, yo, I dare you to look at my daughter. I dare you to look at my wife, or I dare you to disrespect me. And so we see a lot of these conversations, especially on Twitter right now, right, spent out of control because respect or even the perception of disrespect is so important. Why? Because according to our axiology, our cultural makeup and what we value relationships. Relationships with God, relationships with each other, relationships to the earth, relationships, we want harmonious relationships. And so respect being something that disrupts that, is seen as definitely a problem. So I wanted to mention that. Now, the other thing that I was talking about in terms of individualism, we'll see Black people showing out and acting very respectfully towards other groups versus our own, is because somewhere along the way, we have begun to act in a very individualistic, Eurocentric manner, right? So I gave this example in my course this evening. A lot of people have license. They feel like they have license to go out and behave badly or disrespectfully or in a way that dishonors themselves. Personally, I don't communicate or show up that way because I don't see myself as an individual. I belong to people. I belong to my mother. I belong to my father. I belong to my grandparents. I belong to my brothers, my sisters, my community, my students. I belong to Black society. I'm not out here acting on Jade's will. Now, not to say that I don't have free will, but what guides me and how I show up in my highest self, in my God self, I belong to God. I belong to my ancestors. I belong to my community. I belong to my lineage, and I am therefore representing them. And so, with that being known, there's certain ways in which I need to show up. I choose to show up, rather, in a way that honors them and esteems them and reveres them. But this, a lot of this mass confusion, anti-blackness, the disrespect, the lack of self-respect is, to me, in my opinion, indicative of our people acting as individuals as opposed to members of a collective. I am accountable to my children. I am accountable, again, to my nephews, to my nieces, to the man that I love. I represent him. You know what I'm saying? I represent my grandparents and everybody. I am not an individual. I belong to people. I belong to my client. I represent my clients, right? So, my brother Riza Islam is out here doing wonderful work. I represent my brother. You know what I'm saying? Our brother Tariq is out here doing wonderful work. And other people that I have collaborated with and have worked with in certain ways. A lot of elders, Professor James Small, Dr. Joy DeGroot. I can name a whole list of elders and people. I literally am working in service, of them as well, because we're all connected. And so I think that we have to get back, we have to stray away from this Eurocentric manner of seeing ourselves as just individuals. We can just go out here and be willy-nilly and do whatever we want, as opposed to seeing ourselves as accountable for ourselves and for each other. Thank you.
Woo! Yeah, my sister. We definitely got to get another space going. You, David, David, man, we got this is they need to hear more of you, for real. I wish I might have to let a lot of my family members listen to you, because you really breaking it down. Now we got another sister, Sister Sharon Coleman. Drop some knowledge. What you think about what was just spoken about having intrinsic value, and why we don't value each other, and why we like to peacock in front of the dominant society. Give us your take on what you think about that.
Well, I don't know. Hello. I don't know like how we peacock in front of the dominant society, but I feel like we lost our way along the way. Like we used to be like have love, honor, and respect back in the 60s and the 70s, and we value people more than things. Now we value all our things, and we don't value each other. And that's where I land my plane. That's it.
Thank you, my sister. And you just dropped jewels, because you are right. Now, I'm going to piggyback off what my brother No Compromise said, and my sisters just said Lioness Crown, and Sister Sharon said. I'm going to ask y'all this question. Why is it from y'all perspective we don't want to connect and build, as my brother No Compromise to say, a nationhood? Meaning, why don't we want to build together? Why is it like I give everybody props that came into this space? Me and my brother No Compromise, we've been doing this space for a minute. And everybody that came in, we appreciate it. But why is it we only want to deal with each other when the house is already built? Why is it we don't say, oh, I see my sister right there. My sister, she's building something. Let me go over there and see what I can help her with. Who's over there building? Lioness Crown. She's over there digging up dirt so she can build that house. Let's get some people together and let's go over there and help. Why is it we'll sit back and watch someone build the house, and then we come along and then partake in the festivities, but we don't want to build a nation? Why is that? David first, No Compromise first, then my sister second.
Yes, so that is simply because the game has been changed, right? We are currently living in the new world order. The new world order. So a lot of the times we have people who are saying, well, we're waiting, I guess they were saying the Bible and stuff like that, that the new world order is supposed to be coming and these are the signs and everything like that. What we have to understand, and what many of us misunderstood, is that we are already living in the new world order. Racism, white supremacy. Again, I'm not saying racism and white supremacy, because it is the same. Racism is white supremacy. They have created the new world order. We are living in it now. So in all senses, we play by their game. They took the Monopoly game and recreated the rules. And now we live within that domain. Now, because of that, because of we operating, us black people and all other colored people on the planet, but I specifically about black people, because we live and operate within that system is a me society. As for the African people lived in a we society. When prior to Native Africans migrating the planet, there was so much land everywhere in Africa. There was no need for any feudalism. There was no need for any imperialism and colonialism, because simply if you just didn't like a certain part of the land, well, I'm going to get my family up and we're going to move. And if we can't decide on who's going to move, both of us are going to move, and nobody's going to have that piece of the land. You go east, I'll go west. And somebody else will have the center. That's the way that Black people operated. When Black people did not feel any more need for that part of the land, they didn't stay and colonize that land and destroy, kill, steal, and murder others seeking to refuge in that land or seeking to engulf themselves in that land. They just got up and left, went to South America and started a civilization there. They just got up and left and came here to the Americas tens of thousands of years ago and started civilizations here. We built families, which is what we're missing now. It's hard for us to build if you don't look at yourself as a collective. Again, we are operating in the system of a people that has no conscience towards family values, towards culture. Our culture is what? Beliefs, ideas, and values. We value family. We value reading and literature, arts, creating, building, recreating, civilizing without colonizing.
Pardon me, brother. I hate to interrupt. I know you're building. This is a family conversation, and there's a suspected white supremacist in the room by the name of Sir Ludwig. Everyone should block him right now.
Wait, who? What's the name? Because I'm about to get him up out of here. What's the name?
Sir Ludwig. He is a white supremacist icon, picture, photo. You go to his page, he's a white supremacist.
And he in here, sir? Okay, I'm going to get him up out of here. Let me see. Let me look. My bad. I don't see him. My answer. Okay. Well, go ahead, David. I'll get him up out of here. Go ahead and continue what you were saying. Thank you, my sister. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Queen. I appreciate you. I see she from Brooklyn too. I'm from New York too.
DC. I used to live in Brooklyn.
Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies. But yeah, man. But yeah, we operate in our natural culture is we collective. Let's work together. We've been conditioned to live in a me society. So now that we're living in a me society, it does not work. And now here's where the mass confusion comes in, because you have some folks who say, well, we should live as a collective. And I'm talking about Black folks here. They're saying we should live as a collective because this is the way that actually works. If we're going to build a Black nation, we can't do it separated. We can't do it apart unless it's going to be those people that we've exiled. However, we have to engage in a collective, a unified type of way if we're going to be seeking to build a nationhood, a Black nation, which is what Marcus Garvey preached his whole life. But because, again, we operate in a system that was never meant for us to advance, they never had any plan in mind for Black people to engage and to have a nationhood. Because we live in that type of society, it doesn't work unless we separate ourselves from that me society and gather in with the we society. That's just what it comes down to. So we have to build healthy families. And lastly, what I would say, and Warren G, I say this all the time. We have to get into the business of exiling Black folks who are against our liberation. As it stands right now, in the physical form, We don't have black communities in a physical form. Like just as a whole, we don't. Mentally, we do. We connect with each other. Spiritually, we do. We connect with each other. Physically, we don't have it now. There's the Italy town. There's Chinatowns. You got all different type of towns. There's no black town or African town or Native African town or FBA town. There's no town that we have here in which we can run to for refuge, which we can go to build economy or to educate our own children. We don't have this. So if we're going to build this, we've got to get into the business of exiling those black folks who believe that siding up with the white or the brown people is going to benefit them. We got to exile those black folks who are seeking notorious manumission, in which they don't care who they rat. They don't care about ratting out our people. They don't care about our lineage. They don't care about our progression as a black people as a whole. They don't care about that. The only thing they care about is individual material, individual awards. Again, they're living in that me society. So we got to get into the business of exile, and we got to build healthy families.
My sister, you next. We gonna get you Miss. I don't want to mispronounce her name, but I know she has to speak. And then we got our boy Wise Tone. But I want to get Lioness Crown in here. I want to get her in there. Go ahead, my sister. Drop your jewels.
Thank you. So, so this is where I tap into the power of my subconscious mind. I can look out in the world and see all the evidence of certain black folks that are not building, or people who want to come to the party late, right? Like once the house is built. I think that's what your question was around, right? But for me, my intention, I endeavor to look for and seek out and attract those who are builders. So literally, words, power, and sound. Your words, your thought, your meditation, it literally shapes our reality. And not on some delusional stuff where we're ignoring the systemic barriers or loopholes that are there. But what's worked for me personally as I go out and I do this work in our community and in the world in service of producing justice for our people, my intention is to build with those who want to build. And so I have a lot of evidence also, on the contrary, that there are many black folks who actually do want to build something, who are ready to roll up their sleeves and dig their hands in the dirt, and people are already also doing their work. It's my responsibility to go out and find those folks and to build with them. But they're definitely out there, right? And so I'm working on shifting my perspective and shifting my language around our people in a way that doesn't, communicate, black folks, or pathologize black folks from a deficit, or our community from a deficit sort of mindset. Because there's a lot of people who want to build. When I'm learning, especially, on social media, and what I've, been doing this work, is that a lot of our people want to build, but there are other things that get in the way. Maybe it's communication, maybe it's a lack of knowledge, maybe it's a lack of resources, and those sorts of things. So once we can identify reasons in which, or ways in which, we perceive the masses of our folks not wanting to build, then we can then provide solutions to sort of get them on board and work as a collective. But I can't personally say that the majority of our people don't want to build anything or aren't about this work, because I'm literally engulfed in spaces and places and conversations all day, every day, with folks who do build. So I hope that we can sort of expand on that as well.
I like that perspective. That's a fact. That's a fact. That you right about that too. Because there are a lot of us out there that want to build. That's how I met my brother David. No compromise. And that brother's doing a lot of good work. And just like you, and I appreciate it. Sister Sharon, you want to say something real quick on this topic?
Yeah. I just feel that it's two types of people, or three types actually, in our FBA. It's the leaders that want to do it, It's the followers that's gonna do it. Like, well, I do it if you say it. If you want to do it, and it's the ones that's like, that ain't gonna work. So, like he said, we should try to. I don't know. I know it's impossible, but to be together as a collective, that would be great. But if not, we still have to just follow the code and do it on our own, and try to connect.
That's a fact, my sister. That's a fact. I appreciate that. You're right. And there are those type of people. I like that perspective. You just gave me another question I'm gonna ask, but I like that perspective. Okay, we got Miss Giselle, or
You got
I
it.
don't
Go
want
ahead.
to miss. Okay, I'm sorry, my sister. I don't like to mispronounce people's names and stuff like that. I just, I've been kind of raised don't do that. So I apologize if I said it wrong. But what you think? Give us your partake on this subject matter.
And hey, everybody. Happy, what is this, Wednesday? Um, I wanted to say I love this conversation. I love the productive conversations. And I do believe that our people are thirsty for this change. We've been waiting for it. So I think it just wasn't enough people in close spaces beating the same drum, because we got to I always look at the blueprint of our past. So you got to look at what happened right after the Black Empowerment movement. The first thing that happened, we were attacked in every angle. White supremacists recognized the power in that and the lack of power that they had over us and our people at that time, because our people was becoming more and more attracted to that Black empowerment movement. So they had to shut that down, but they had to insert um, I guess, insecurities and um, what is it? It's another word that I'm looking for. They just wanted to insert that insecurities and lack of self confidence. So that's why they got into our schools, and they put those teachers into the schools to teach our kids so they can insert those insecurities into our babies when they were the most impressionable. That is a life. They put lifelong stamps into our children. So that is one thing they pushed it. They pushed our men out of the homes in most cases by force, by putting them into putting them into these wars back in the 70s and stuff like that. So even our businesses, we were stripped from our businesses, because when we had those businesses, we did have that sense of community. And they pushed us into they sold us the dream of the corporate America because it was more stable, which was also something that they put together. So it was so many things, and we can't just look at one spot, because when you look at one spot, you're like, damn, it was something going on over here. So overall, it's so many aspects that they came to attack us with, because they saw what would have happened over like a generation. But I think today our people are very ready. When I'm out canvassing or when we're doing events, we can see our people. They are ready, and our children are ready, and they are ready. When we start talking and stuff to them, they're ready to fight back. However, again, those indoctrination systems in the schools is starting to sway their minds into this individualism even more, and now some other crap. But now I think our focus should be reinserting that confidence into our youth. Every single person in here, I'm sure we got kids, we have to start reinserting that confidence. That right there is going to change the game. We only got 10 years. And knowing that that's that generation, these kids are going to inherit the debt we did not secure right now. They're going to inherit that zero wealth. They're either going to inherit zero wealth, or they're going to inherit the legacy our ancestors left for us. And that's where I'm at with this. So I believe wholeheartedly that um, we have the power to reverse all of this. It's all about confidence. We actually, I got a couple of community activists here locally. I just got my podcast, but I also do like community stuff. But I got a whole bunch of Black men, including those in the nation that's local here in the DMV. The nation always holds stuff down. So We got those brothers out here in a couple of organizations, and I might have put it together, but they're the lead. That's how we get them to insert that confidence into our kids. And we just got to keep it going, because while we up here fighting, they have to be ready to pick up the torch. And I'll land there.
Ooh, you right, sister. You right. Powerful. Very, very powerful what you said. And you're right. You're right. You're right. Before I go to the next person, you're right. That confidence needs to be there. Me and my brother David from No Compromise, we talked about that a lot. Me growing up in the black church, there was a level of confidence that was instilled as far as you coming to church, but there was lacking a level of confidence of being a strong black man or a strong black woman and being strong in your blackness. And you know what? We need to restore that and get that back to where it needs to be. Let's go to our brother Wise Tone. Wise Tone, you want to get on? Unmute yourself.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you on? You on, my brother?
My bad. I was still hitting the request button. But
you good, brother. You good. Go ahead.
Right on. Hey, just respect to the family, peace to everybody in there, in the space or whatever. I really don't have much to add. I just was listening, actually. I don't really have much to add to it other than the fact that I speak to the fact that I am a brother that is willing to put in the work. It's just about where, you know what I mean? Like I was just in the space earlier, and they got some pull-ups coming out here in the Bay, and that's where I'm at. So I'm like, how can I get involved? What can I do? Because I'm more or less about action at this point. Like, we done talked about 1,000 different topics, didn't talked about 1,000 different things. It's more or less about, like, okay, the people who have been leading the way, we all know who they are. Let's get to a point where we like, okay, tangibly, we need this done, or we need that done. We need, you know what I mean, so that people can start to contribute in whatever way that they can, whether it's trading their sweat equity, whether it's donation, whether it's creating a business or creating a company or whatever the case may be. It's just that I feel like we want to, push this push this black thing forward, or FBA thing forward, or however we coming, but it's just more or less like, how is it being organized and how is it being spat back out to the people in a way in which is like, hey, no, this is the way, this is what we need to be on. And I'll land my plane there.
Man, brother, you speaking facts. I like that in you. See, y'all answer. See, lion is crown. He said the same thing as you, just in a different way. Like, he about handling business. So basically, he just answered my question. I like that. I like that in you, man. We need people like that, because I'm one. I want to support black businesses. I want to know. I don't just do. David could tell you, no compromise. I'm not doing this space. We don't care about the people that's in the space. I want to know what your podcast is. I want to know what your YouTube page is, so I can go support and do what I need to do, due diligence, and show that I'm supporting you. And I think a lot more people need to have that type of perspective. Okay, have Protein. Go ahead, unmute yourself, and go ahead and let us know what got going on and what you think about the subject matter.
Petro, buddy. If you can hear me.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, my brother. Go ahead.
All right, how everybody doing, buddy? Man, I wanted to respond to the guy that was speaking earlier, man. He was saying that we don't have no African towns and stuff like that. Yeah, it's an African town literally 10 minutes away from me, man. And the white folks that took all the property from all the black people that used to live there, and half of them my family. What they'll do is they'll do things like rezone things. They'll make it a heritage site. They'll do all other things, change the law to make sure that you can't keep it. Like, it don't, the policy is that we need the money to secure our stuff, man, because we building stuff all the time. A lot of people get discouraged because you got to deal with the rule changes, the health departments, the The constant inspection, the constant license requirement, the constant update. See, I'm a convicted felon too, man, so I can't even get licensing for a lot of businesses that I like to do. You understand me? So we got that problem as well. So you can't say that black people ain't building nothing out here, man, because I'm building stuff and I got 3 felony convictions. I ain't got a family with a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? We got property, but the generation that's over me, guess what? They ain't appreciate the property. So guess who taking care of it? Me, with my 3 felony having ass and my little small businesses that I ran out of the back seat of my motherfucking car. You feel me? See, man, listen. You can't downplay what somebody's doing out here, man, because we working with what we got, which is nothing. You feel me? We ain't got nothing out here, man. We working with nothing. And when you do got something, guess what happens? You drive the wrong type of car in the right city, guess what? You get pulled over, you get snatched out of your car. What you do for a living? Where your check stub? Where your pay stub? Where this, where that? Guess what? Now they took everything you got, they raiding your house, your investigation, they impound everything, and then you gotta prove what you own, what you got. So yeah, we build a lot of stuff they take away. So that's all I gotta speak on with that, man. And I'm out, man. Thank y'all for the space.
Oh, my brother. Don't look, you dropping jewels. Don't even worry about it. I just followed you. Man, you can DM me whatever businesses you trying to work on or whatever, how we can help or I can help. Hey, man, I'm about to support. It don't matter. Look, the internet is everybody's friend. So there is no excuse. I tell people this all the time. There's no excuse for us to not be supporting black businesses and recycling that dollar. We are so proud to where every time I turn on TV and I see a black person, you know what I see? Balenciaga, Gucci, Fendi. You know, you see all, I mean, damn. And then when it comes to Pharaonic Design, that's a black clothing line I purchased from them. Ramomar, there's other black clothing lines that I think our brother Riza Islam was promoting. We kind of frown on that. Why do we not brag about that stuff? So look, man, we appreciate you, brother. We are behind you, and don't trip. You are the epitome of what I heard from this. I would call my elder Bobby Glanton Smith. He says you're the model of possibilities. So, man, we appreciate you, and don't think your work doesn't go unnoticed. Now we're gonna go to our sister Sharon. Go ahead and speak on this subject matter and unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to say what Miss Giselle said. Our kids are definitely going to need the confidence because there's some serious anti-blackness out here, and it's coming like Mack trucks, not just from the white man, but all of these immigrants. I just sat and was looking for, I'm sure a lot of us know in this room about the pull up in LA and that sister Connie out there. So I was looking for videos, and I guess this is round 3 of her pull up, and there was a brother out there. I didn't see any the Mexicans out there today, not based on the footage that I seen, but the one distractor was a brother who was heckling the sister, telling everybody that was there, oh, you all need to get jobs. I mean, all kinds of just, greasy, foul stuff coming out of his mouth. And it was a brother. And I said, this is just the epitome of where we are. So, the anti-blackness, you got black anti-black folks. Literally. And it was like, it was disheartening. But we are going to have to close some serious ranks. It's serious out here. And these immigrants are so gaslit. They are filled with so much hate. Okay? And the hate that it's almost beyond belief. And they are seriously afraid of our uprising. They are seriously afraid of our unity. They do not want us to have nothing. And I fear for the younger people, because if they don't get off this all we all the same and POC, black and brown. If they don't get on this code, they are going to be crushed. And luckily they've exposed themselves, and hopefully we can do something about it in advance. One thing that I say, and I see it, the quickest way we can shut this down is economically. We have got to stop giving these people our money. We can shut them down in 2 weeks. We can shut down the beauty industry in 2 weeks. Shut down all them Asian Chinese food. Make your own Chinese. Shut them all down. Now you have to get gas. There's certain things you need, but you don't have to go into them damn beauty stores. You don't have to go in there and get all them nails done. You don't have to go and eat that Chinese food. We are their economy. And the disrespect and the vitriol has me through a roof. And it has me very concerned about our future. But we have got to understand, they ain't going to give us nothing. They are so hateful. And the only way we'll shut them down is economically, because we tend to forget that they get their wealth primarily from us. So we're feeding our own oppression. And for that brother, and I'm going to stay up a little bit later to see if I can see some more footage. But for that brother to be heckling that sister like that, when basically, and the first thing I said, oh, go get a job. Why don't you go get a job? What the hell you think they out there for? Because Power 106 ain't hiring black people. That's why they're sitting out there protesting. So they want to tell us not, go get a job, when they have discriminated against us and won't hire us. Even people with degrees. So they're going to have to really stop playing with us. With that, they're trying to flip. It's like that reverse psychology shit. And it's just getting bad. And another thing I thought about, and I just want to pose this question to this. This is my first time in the group. I'm probably going to bounce a little bit and go over to the other group. But I said to myself, when Trump was in office, I did not see the level of anti-blackness that I see during this administration. And I know it ain't just me. So I just wanted to pose that question. And anti-blackness is a major, major issue. And I will be participating in the pull-up in Baltimore. I'm trying to connect. There's supposed to be one coordinated in Baltimore. I am in DC. So I'm going to try to connect with that. And I'm certainly going to show up and try to, whoever I know, put it on my Twitter page, in my circles. Because another thing I was disappointed with is the amount of people that showed up with that sister today. Because I think it was it's probably like a little less than I think before. I think she'll come in and give a tally. But I am proud that she came in, and the crew, the representation was professional. They were clear, they were focused, and they were on point. So that was the purpose, to meet with the executives of Power 106, but they're refusing a meeting with them. So I am proud of them in that. Quality over quantity, right? Because everyone that I saw and who spoke, they were definitely quality. They were prepared. They were ready. They really weren't ready for the BS. They were ready for the boardroom. And that's how we got to be as well. So those are just my thoughts. And thank you for your time, and I land my plane.
Woo, sister, you had me about to shed a tear. You had me angry, and you had me wanting to go pull up. I appreciate that, sister. And just to let y'all know, from what I see too, that guy Gil, that American Cholo, he called Tariq Nasheed a ghetto coon and was calling people niggas and stuff like that. And I think he's got a segment on Power 106, and I think that's another reason why they pulled up as well. And me being from LA, I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, but I'm from LA. Like, I'm from West LA, Carmona and Adams. That's where my neighborhood is from. That's where I grew up. And then I moved, David knows this, I moved to Baldwin Park, or what you would call West Covina. I've experienced the most anti-black racism. They used to write nigger on our brick wall. My older brother and me, we were very upset with our parents for moving us out there because we were originally around all black people. And then they moved us there, and it was nothing but Latinos, and they were letting us know every chance they get, they didn't want us there. We were literally the only black on our neighborhood, the only black on our street. You fighting with Mexicans all the time. They telling you to go back to Africa. Now, I've met a few, before I get into it, I met a few that knew that that was wrong, and they would, be like, "No, I'm not messing with them because that's racist and that's wrong." But I've experienced it firsthand. So now that black folk are coming together and announcing our lineage and announcing that we are a special group of people like Dr. Claude Anderson teaches, now all the other racial groups are getting upset. And to piggyback off of the sister that just spoke, I've been saying this forever. I told David, when Trump was in office, what I liked about Trump, I didn't vote for him, but you know what I liked about him? He was an equal opportunity racist. He didn't like niggas. He didn't like Mexicans. He didn't like LGBTQ. Oh, he don't like nobody. If you're not white and rich like him, he don't mess with you. But I can tell you this, being up under the Biden administration, who's an extension of our good friend Barack Obama, I've witnessed and experienced more anti-black racism than when Trump was in office. And this is why we have to understand what's going on and listen to each other, because now that we have Biden in office, he's just going to sit back and pass laws for Asians and Latinos. And you heard what he told those black folk. Y'all better get with the Latinos. So he's let y'all know how he feel. And there's still people that are conditioned to vote for Joe Biden again. And then when you deal with the Latinos that are now, they want to have a voice and say they're the native people and they're the native and all this other stuff. And it's like, I'm going to pose this question to everybody mentally. Listen to these Latinos. They speak from emotion with no facts, no references, no books, like our sister Lioness Crown, No Compromise. They're giving you books. They're giving you Dr. Joy DeGruy. They're giving you Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Neely Fuller Jr. They're giving you straight facts. Ask any of these other racial groups, well, where's your facts? Where's your documented history that you guys are the original people here? And watch how they fold. We have to learn how to not be so emotional, be emotionless, and come with facts. And go ahead, and I'm going to let Miss Giselle get in here and speak. Go ahead, unmute yourself, sister.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say, too, if everybody that couldn't make it to Cali, we're actually helping out our sister Connie by, all you have to do is go to Power 106 page, LA page. And social media is amazing. All you have to do is tag a good 10 to 20 of the posts that is on their pages. Share other people's posts also who are tagging these posts, because, and not only that, we've been tagging the artists. We said, hey, Meg the Stallion, this who you rock with, this what you doing now, you down with people that's doing this type of stuff to our people, and we share the video. Because if enough people see it, it's so much power in social media, guys. Even though you can't make it to Cali, this puts fire underneath of them. Say, hey, do we need to take our pull out following back? Do we need to not support you, Usher? We got Usher, we got P. Diddy on a couple of them, we got Meg the Stallion on a couple of them. And these posts, my last one, I'm up to like 10,000 on impressions. People looking because they like, what's going on right here? So they might not check it or share it or like it, but they're looking at it. And these record labels are like, wait a minute, we can't have this problem. We need to fix this because it's not only Power 106. A lot of our DJs are getting pushed out of these radio places. And then we have these people representing our people. We cannot allow that shit anymore. We saw that, excuse my language, I forgot this is being sorry.
No, you
We
good. You good,
cannot,
my sister. You good,
yeah,
my
sorry
sister.
about
Go
that.
ahead.
We
No,
can't
you
allow
good.
it anymore because it's damaging our image. This isn't even what we rock with. And we have to take control. The music is that's our shit. This is our space. You're not gonna get your come up off of us and we going to jail by the boatloads by what you representing in these radio stations and the stuff you get to kiki and kaka while our people getting locked up and thrown back into slavery. So I say all of that to say share every post and reshare. Share everything that everybody else is doing. If you can't find it, jump on mine because I got a couple of them on my page and we're gonna tag them again tomorrow. And every single time they get another big post on there, because we told P Diddy too. You won't notice, bruh, all y'all, nobody is obsolete. And we hollering at Essence because that's our shit. The head of Essence, she got on stage talking about we need to get our stuff together. Ma'am, sit your ass down. We don't need you to represent us. This is our fight. We're not going to Haiti talking about, hey, you know what? We want to represent you because you know we black just like you. They will run us up and out of Haiti. They will run us up and out of Nigeria if we don't get killed first. So what I'm saying is you wouldn't even be on a platform like Essence if we didn't build that shit. So be quiet in your seat and just ask us how you can help or shut the fuck up. So I land there, and I didn't mean to say the F word. I should have kept it with the shit.
I'm sorry. I
All
didn't mean
right,
to laugh. That's funny.
we're gonna
No,
leave it
you
right
good.
there.
No, you good, my sister. We appreciate it. Okay, we got another person in here that wants to speak. I am woke Melanair or whatever. I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher your name. I just go ahead and unmute yourself, and you can tell us what your name is because I don't want to tear it up. But go ahead, my sister.
Peace, light, and respirations, family. I hope everyone is safe and sound. It's I am woke Melanair. Uh, um, well, I just wanted to piggyback off a few things that people have said, and shout out to the sisters. I love when y'all pull up and come in these spaces and drop that knowledge. It's a beautiful thing. As the nurturers of and the mother of civilization, we as well need to be on the front line, making sure our people are good. But now, in regards to Trump, Trump did a lot for Black people. You know, I'm a New Yorker, and I can vouch for a lot of things that Trump did for our people in New York. Um, Helping a brother who had broke down on the side of the road, got out his limo, uh, uh, attempted to fix his flat. It didn't work. He took him back to the Trump Tower and set him up in a limo and got him home, got his car towed. He put a sister and her 3 kids up in Trump Tower for a year because she was homeless. You know, he's given money. He gave money to Jesse Jackson. I can go on and on and on and on. All white people are inherently racist. All of them. They are born. They inherit the system when they're born into it. So they're all inherently racist. It's their actions that are problematic. And Trump didn't do anything to us in his during his presidency. He actually left us the fuck alone, which gave us plenty of opportunity to do things and get ourselves together. He didn't do us any good and he didn't do us any bad. Well, as far as immigration, I think that was a good thing for us because we shouldn't support that at all. But yeah, and in regards to this finding a way to take down, my suggestion has always been in accord with hashtag missing 24, boycott. You know, we can do boycott and protests and boycott, but we must boycott, because the most powerful thing that we can do is remove their profits. That's the most powerful thing we can do, because their profits is which funds every single thing that they do. You know, so if we attack their profits in all ways, buying black, uh, not going into their stores, whatever have you, just so many ways. I mean, I had to tell a brother today, at the car dealer, I'm like, listen, he's like, he hungry, he about to go over to the Mexican truck. You want something? Hell no. I'm not giving them a goddamn red penny. Hell no, and neither should you. Let's go down to this black-owned restaurant up the block and eat these vegan burgers and be good. But absolutely, you could protest. That's great. That puts it out there what we're about and what we're trying to do. But also back that up with a boycott. Listen, hit their sponsors, hit every single thing that you can possibly listen. But not only that, don't let it be something that's temporary. This is not a fad, Well, he said this, so we're gonna go boycott for a couple of weeks. No, boycott until we get what we want. That's the whole purpose of the boycott. And if you look back at the Montgomery bus boycott, look how long they did it. They boycotted, with tenacity. They stood together, united. They made it happen for each other. And they did it until they got what they want. Listen, I want you publicly violated us. So I want you to publicly apologize and publicly pull out your checkbook. That's what we should be looking at. That's the type of demands that we should be making. They putting out these blanket apologies. Like, how many times do we have to sit back and be like, okay, well, they apologize, okay, all right, we we back. No, fuck them, fuck that. Seriously. So we just have to pull in and become that atomic bomb that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about, and explode on their asses in such a massive way, in such a long-term way that they just can't come back from it. And then when they do, they're coming back and they're begging. They're begging on their hands and knees, crawling back to us, willing and willing and able to give us anything and everything that we want. That's the type of power that we have. That's the type of power that we must put forth. And like Professor Black Truth says, power isn't earned, power is taken. So we want the power, we got to take the power back and use it in all ways, no matter what it takes, no matter what it costs. It's going to cost lives. It's going to cost jobs. It's going to cost all types of things. This is a lifetime of sacrifice that our ancestors put forth. They sacrificed their lives for us to afford what we have today. And we would be just, oh gosh, we would be so wrong to not continue that sacrifice, to not be able to not put forth that same exact sacrifice. So I just implore everyone, do your part. You don't have to do it like the rest of these activists out here, so to speak. Do your part, go out of your way to buy black. I don't care how far you got it. I do it all the time. I don't care how far I got to drive. I'll go anywhere to support a black business before I support anybody else. And those are the types of things we have to do. And if you want to take some notes, go ahead and hit that hashtag on any social media outlet. Hashtag missing 24. I actually just shared something because I believe that they're coming back, and they put forth a stay-at-home boycott again on September 26th. It would pretty much, I think, mark like 6 years since the first one that actually went international. So hit that hashtag and share it out. Let the people know this is what we're doing. We're staying home. We're removing our bodies and our labor and our money for 24 hours to let you know that we're not playing any games. So, and on that note, I land my plane.
All right, appreciate it. All right, I got another question that I want to ask Dave from No Compromise and Lioness Crown. I really want to get their perspective. I'm gonna let one more person go ahead and speak. Just kind of make it quick because I know these people are busy. I know everybody's busy, but I really want to get their perspective on it. Bad boy, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Peace, King. So I just wanted to drop in on you guys for a minute, right? Because I wanted you to think on something. So my name is actually Darrell Jones. And if you probably Google that, whether from Netflix or whatever, I'm one of the brothers in this country. I just did 32 years in prison, basically 35 for something I didn't do, wrongful conviction, right? So the reason I'm jumping on is because I'm listening and I try to hit these platforms and remind my people that if you've never been in prison, you won't understand how prison actually works, right? And this is a prison out here that they're forming around you. You just don't see the gate. My sister that was just speaking made a couple of valid points, but it works like the prison do when they work the gangs against each other. I live with the worst mobsters, the worst everybody. If you saw them go to jail, somewhere I was around them. You know what I mean? All those years I was there since I was 18. But the principal point is the way they set it up for you. Trump, she said, and I understood what she meant, that Trump helped a lot of blacks. But you got to understand sometimes how people are helping you. There are drug dealers that help a lot of dope fiends too. And to the dope fiend, that would be help, right? This is what Trump really did to us. He allowed an opportunity for various Negroes, that's exactly what it was about, from Lil Wayne on to have an opportunity to be what we would call free. But even with the prisons, he was the first one. It wasn't Obama to come. I was in there while Obama. I don't feel like he really did much for me, period. In fact, I won a United Nations award for writing a letter to Obama. I won a few awards in prison, but that was one of them, right? And I never heard from Obama, but now I'm home. I'd contend with that. But at the same time, Trump was able to say, hey, I'll free your people. Why? Because he know they're not ready to be free. He know that when I say ready to be free, I'm talking about the free after change, meaning they send them back to our communities and the results of what you see across the country. Because we don't have a leadership anymore. We're still I came home and I'm still hearing people talking about Martin Luther King had a dream, still using that, still holding that day to have a speech. If Martin Luther King had a dream before I went to jail and all the time I did in jail, and then I come home, he's still having his dream. That ain't no longer a dream. That's a coma. That's a nightmare. Did not wake up. We're supposed to wake it up. You know what I mean? We're supposed to set our own stage for freedom. And I lived with, sadly, white, black, Hispanics, whatever it is. I live Haitian. I lived in that prison with everybody's family because a lot of us don't want to acknowledge that their families are in prison, right? But I lived with a lot of different families, people I would have never lived with. We lived together coming out of all kind of households. And what I discovered being in prison was that the main thing for us to do is make a way out of nowhere. And we can't do that without understanding some form of unity. So I'll end it on this note. I want you guys to think right now, if we were being attacked or, the odds was just going totally different. We ain't in no bunkers. Let's keep it real. And our brothers are not out here cleaning their guns and training and doing all these type of things. Nor are we masking up, going places, test driving like they do in Boston back and forth, right? What about our leadership? So I will impose a question back to all of you. When I was in prison, you guys had Million Man March. We had all kinds of stuff. And there were many people on the mic who were in a situation to say something now. And I want to ask you, think all the way down to your black leaders and say, damn, how many of them do I have I heard of? Why we ain't Million Man marched on down there now and let them know we here? What happened? Everybody out here lost their fight because we lost our spiritual account. Everybody's rich. Everybody's flashing money, but we spiritually bankrupt, so we can't get together until we click together and understand that. So that was just my freedom note from all the time I did my message back to my sisters and brothers.
I appreciate that, my brother. You dropping jewels, and man, I really admire you. You know what I mean? I felt like you have a real big story to tell, and I'm gonna be honest. It doesn't surprise me that Obama, aka Barry Sorderow, who inherited $500,000 from his grandmother, his white grandmother, who's related to Dick Cheney, did not respond to you, because that's why they placed him there, because they know he didn't have any allegiance to foundational Black Americans or just to people that are native to this landmass that have been, you know, done so wrong with slavery, Jim Crow, all these things. So it doesn't surprise me that he did not respond, but it's our job, I feel like, to respond to your story, and we can tell our younger generation that. That's what I feel like, and that's what we need to start doing. And that's, I feel, with all this stuff going on, me and No Compromise, we've talked about it a million times, and I'm gonna say it again, we don't have the intrinsic value that we need to have in each other. And that pull up to Power 106, I get it. People probably at work or whatever, but when Black folk are doing that to other Black folk, that is called the Hayward Shepherd mentality. For all of us who have read Dr. Claude Anderson's books, Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, Hayward Shepherd got a meritorious manumission, as our brother David from No Compromise talks about, because he's the one who told on John Brown and them, and told the slave masters, John Brown and them are coming. John Brown. That's what we do, because we, as our sister Lioness Crown and David from No Compromise says, we have the I first, and then the we later. We have that Omarosa mentality. And no diss to that sister, because she's a beautiful sister. I mean, that sister's beautiful. But, you know, you get in there with Trump, and then they really tell you that you a nigga. And then when they oust you, then you flip it on the, oh, I was the spook who sat by the door. And it's like, yeah, I get it from maybe your perspective, but I think we need to do less Hayward Shepherd type mentalities, and we need to have more of a standing on principle. You know, because what everybody spoke about earlier, I'm learning from it, and that's true. Black folk as a whole, I feel like we deal with relationships. We deal with respect. We deal with intrinsic value and the respect boundaries that we set. And when we set those boundaries, I really feel like when they're broken or crossed, you know, lives get lost behind that. That's why in the drug game, if somebody gives you some work and you don't pay them, most likely you're going to go join the ancestors, because that's how it is. That's you know how it can be. And I feel like we value each other, but we need to step it up a little bit. And like the other sister was saying, we need to start supporting Black businesses. It's so funny. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you guys ain't ever been here, they have this thing called Hot and Juicy. It's in Chinatown. I saw so many Black people in there, and I was telling my sisters that was in there, I'm like, look at all these Black people in here. How y'all know that these people ain't been on dirty dining or they got nasty? But we're so trusting of other racial groups, but we're not trusting of each other. And I feel like that's stuff that we need to work on. Now, the question that I'm going to propose to the panel, but I'm going to go with David and go with Lioness Crown first. This is a question that I want to propose. Okay, now that everybody's awakened and people are starting to have knowledge of who they are, what are the necessary steps that we need to take, as our brother was saying, to maintain and keep the momentum? What do we need to do as a people? I'm not talking about the Latinos. I'm not talking about nobody else, because we know in the white Jewish community, they do what's called, they pay tithes to their racial group. A lot of people don't know that, but they pay tithe, like they have to give tithes back. That's why every white Jewish person isn't wealthy, but a lot of white Jewish people aren't broke, because they give back. So what is it that Black folks need to do to maintain this momentum and to keep building this nationhood? I'm going to start with my brother, No Compromise. Go ahead, my brother.
Yo, Warren G, if I can go next after someone, I really appreciate that.
Okay, no problem. Lioness Crown. Go ahead, sister. Knock it out the park. I know you got it. Go ahead, my sister.
What can Black people do to, can you repeat the question, please? Brother, you're muted.
Okay, my bad. What can we do, black folk, to maintain this momentum? Because like that brother mentioned about the Million Man March. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
Farrakhan did the Million Man March. Then they talk shit about him about doing the Million Man March.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, what can we do to maintain this momentum and the focus, really? Because us, sometimes we're a monolith.
Mm-hmm.
I'll propose this to you too, my sister. You know how people with Black Lives Matter, when George Floyd uh, got killed. I told some of my family members, I said, I bet you if I got a Brinks truck and drove it through that protest and opened it and took a fan and blew hundreds of thousands of dollars out of there, how many people will still keep protesting and how many people will be like, damn, this protest, I'm getting this money. So what can we do to maintain the focus of our movement and of our empowerment? What do we need to do?
Well, individually, it starts with the individual, but collectively, we can't have a movement without having a relationship to one's your creator, the most high or something, and rooted in a purpose behind what we're doing. Because when you are rooted in a purpose and in a spiritual principle or spiritual principles, then that comes along with a level of discipline, commitment, and consistency, and you don't sell out, right? So when you're purpose driven and you are clear that you have been called forth by your creator, your ancestors, or whatever, to propel you forward in this movement, that will drive you, forward in the movement and have you persevere through times of adversity. Because I think that it goes back to what I initially said when I came into the space, what I talked about with my students tonight, Dr. Welsing's, chapter 12 of the Theis Papers, Black fear, and, an unwillingness to commit to an ideology that has us in constant commitment to risk it all in order to defeat white supremacy. So individually, I think that, we have to evaluate our purpose in this movement, and everyone's work in the movement is going to look differently, but having a guide, spiritual principles, to sustain us, and to have it rooted in, God's work. God didn't put Black people on the planet to be a permanent underclass. God doesn't want us to be poor. The Most High doesn't want you to be lacking. He don't want us to be sick or any of that. These are all lies that were told to us by our open enemies, right? We are put here to prosper and to thrive and to bring peace and balance and be stewards of this earth and this realm. And so those are the things that, personally, like, drive me and sustain me within this movement. So I would say that. And then the other thing is scholarship. One of my elders from Chicago, a late elder, Dr. Conrad Worrell, I did a panel on reparations probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And he was the elder, and he was like, yo, this is, you all have to remember that scholarship, activism, and organizing go hand in hand. Let me say it again. Those 3 things: scholarship, activism, and organizing are all interconnected. You can't be an activist if you're not well studied. You can't organize if you're not, in committed action through your activism. But scholarship has to be the foundation that drives us in this, in our work and in this movement. And it's not enough to, go on YouTube. I'm talking to myself. I'm not preaching to nobody. To go on YouTube or watch a documentary or listen to a space or get second or third hand information about what our scholars and our great minds have written about. Don't listen to me about Dr. Francis Cress Welsing or Mr. Fuller. I want you to go directly to the source. Read their books. You know what I'm saying? Read Blueprint for Black Power. Read How to Eat to Live. Read these books for yourself, and not let's have a level of intellectual prowess and integrity, so we're really, really clear in terms of not only what we're struggling or fighting for, but what our ancestors and our great Black minds have written. Have we read anything by, Dr. John Henry Clark? Did we read Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey? Do we know about our ancestor Callie House, who was like the original, like the first organizer of the reparations movement after slavery into the 1900s, and she was arrested and persecuted and all of this stuff. Like, we have to not see ourselves as separate and apart from our past or our ancestors, and we really have to give homage to the work that they laid for us. So I'm going to land on this again. Activism, organizing, and scholarship all go hand in hand. And then, wait, one more thing. Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. teaches us that there's only one form of respect, and that is self-respect. We can exercise that personally and then also as a group. And there's 3 things you never beg anybody for ever under any circumstance. You never beg for love, you never beg for respect, and you never beg for an apology. So oftentimes, like, we'll say, oh, this particular group did something, anti-Black and racist towards our group, so that we demand an apology. You never ask for apology, love, or respect, because if you rely on those things from someone else, then that takes your power away, and it compromise. You just give consequences. Remove yourself from the situation. Somebody disrespects our group, then we pull up. Right? A sister was talking about, the protests and the pull-ups, but also boycotts. Hell yeah, we're going to withdraw our political support and our dollar support. So we have to be in the business of delving out consequences when there's bad behavior or any sort of atrocities against our people. I'll land there. Thank you.
My sister.
Brother, if it was possible before I bounce, I'd like to just comment to that, right? If I could.
Yeah, go ahead, my brother. Go ahead.
Okay, peace, King. One of the things I was saying is the sister said on here earlier, and it was a valid point about not spending. That's one of the things we do in prison. It's all we can do, right? So when they really getting at us, white, Black, whatever it is, we'll protest and not go to canteen. You see what I'm saying? So far, we'll go months not eating. You know what I mean? Whatever we got to do. We're used to those protests. But we got to learn what things are valuable taken back for us. So I'll give you an example, and then I'll end on this note. One of the things are people like me. So we just had our conference. We had it in Arizona. And, that another reason I want you to be in touch on FBA, because I got my people down there in Vegas, actually. And I want y'all to connect on something. I want them to interview you. So I do a radio show. It's called bumpthatradio.com. And me and my partner, we do it out of Chicago. I like to bring you kind of people on to come and talk on my show, because I'm an innocent man. I talk to innocent men and women across this country. So everywhere, I've been everywhere. I've spoken to George Floyd. In fact, for Dante Wright, I was the lead escort, you know what I mean, to bring his family in and out of the funeral. I also was the escort for Al Sharpton and so on. So I've been out here. I hit all the colleges. I do that, but I want my ground people, because that's what we're going to need right now to survive it, right? Bottom line is, look at me and look at the innocent people across this country, men and women. And then you say, they're playing a game that is, a law game. We're playing laws now. I happen to have learned the law, got myself home. But the point is, the way that they're playing it is, look at how much it costs. So it was started off $45,000 a year, turned into $55,000 a year. That's $55,000 a year that they use to hold me in prison for over 32 years. So now when you add that up, my people should be saying, our people, since it's primarily Black and people of color, we should be saying, let us get our money back, because it was your tax money out here that kept me in prison. So if that's fraud, if I wasn't the guy and they haven't found the guy, the money they took from you is fraud. So we should be demanding that money back, putting it towards our schools, institutions. You understand that? Millions of dollars. Besides that, we should also be looking at our parties. They're not mad about all this. The only reason they can do what they're doing to us is because of the parties, the Democratic Party, Republican Party. But it seems like people out here have forgotten we were the Republican Party. There was no white people in the Republican Party. It was ours. So we should make a move to try to get that back. And once we started going for that party, we'll find out what it's really about, because they've never had an overload of real Blacks going back for that party. That belongs to us, just like that 40 acres and a mule. Respect, bro. I appreciate that time.
Hey, my brother, you need to please get with me. Look, my brother David, no compromise. He's the one that, like I said, we got to have value in each other. and valuing ourselves. I always knew I could ask pretty decent questions. I've always been told that in my family. But my brother, No Compromise, was like, man, Warren G, man, you be asking some good questions. And then after that, I started doing it. So man, whatever you need, man, I'm following you. So just hit me up on the DM. We can exchange phone numbers. I'll chop it up with your peoples out here, man. Like me, man, look, we can handle business. So don't even worry about it, bro. Just get at it. And I appreciate you, man.
I'm all in, bro. And just a message to our brothers real quick. I'm embarrassed coming home seeing things on the internet. Never mind all the whack 100s and all that craziness. That I don't know why y'all even call that OGs, right? But nonetheless, I'm more surprised that my people, man, that we in a situation where our disunity is totally because of misunderstanding of us. If we want to know what's happening to us, we mentioned a lot of things, the ISIS papers, but people better go back and read that Willie Lynch letter, because that was the design on how to keep us trapped. Respect, bro. I definitely will be up with you and anybody else that want to get up. I done gave my whole life there. I'm in this fight. They pick, if it's a fight, then that's all I've been doing. I know that.
Hey brother, before you bounce, I just wanted to say, man, I respect you and I feel your pain. You know what I'm saying? Me myself, I've been locked up twice for crimes I didn't do. But I didn't serve as much time. You know what I'm saying?
No matter if it was a day, brother.
Oh yeah. Oh, one day feels like 10 years, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
yeah, I've been again for two separate cases, man. So I feel you. I understand that, man.
Respect to all of you guys. And like I said, man, we in a situation where all we got is us. So the strongest link is gonna matter. You know how they say take out the weakest link in the chain? We need to duplicate the strongest link and then link up and keep rebuilding that link and just be strong. Respect you guys.
Appreciate it, my brother. Appreciate it. All right, we had Linus Crown give her perspective. David, No Compromise. What does Black folk need to do to maintain this momentum and focus in our movement? What do we need to do?
We need to place the focus on education. Without education, you're nowhere. And I don't mean just sitting down in the classroom learning the European-centric type of setting or European-centric type of history, math, and all of that, but just education, right? When it comes to the Western world, the Eurocentric world, education is just listening, repeating, passing the test, getting a good grade, get your PhD. You got a paper to prove, so-called, that you have gone through higher learning, and now you are so-called educated. But as Black people, and I'm not saying school is not important, but as Black people, we have to understand that the education, all it really means is the light that's inside of us. So the light has to be brought out of us. We struggle with understanding how to move forward because we haven't been properly educated. In other words, we've been miseducated, like what the great Dr. Carter G. Woodson said. The great Dr. Carter G. Woodson said in his book of Miseducation, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, even you have those Blacks who have been out there marching, protesting. They've been a part of the movement. They're going to be a part of the movements, right? But they're going to later on operate in the interests of white folks. In other words, their minds are already controlled to the point where they're used to going through these certain type of doors. But if they can't find a door, you don't even got to tell them anything, because you've already set the presence for their mind control. So if there's no door for them to go through, they'll make a door to go through. This is how controlled they are. This is Carter G. Woodson saying this stuff, you know what I'm saying, way back. We talking about more than 80 years ago, and we begin to see it manifests instantly, and it's even manifested itself more now. Neely Fuller said that, listen, without the proper education, without the proper learning, you are going to begin to start seeing men coming outside of their pants, and you're going to see them wearing skirts. Then Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she took a little further and described what, wearing the pants out, wearing the pants down, and how you're revealing the buttocks, and that's a sign or invitation for homosexuality. You're inviting someone into your personal space, but you think that it's fashion. These are our ancestors that called this out 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and it's manifesting now. They all call for us black people to be educated so we can know. If you don't know your past, I'm talking about history, and when I mean past, I'm not saying just 10,000 years ago. We can know that, but even if you look 60 years ago or just 125 years ago, this is not that long removed. We're talking about just 2 generations ago, or maybe 2 generations and a half, 2 or 3 generations and a half. When you take a look at it, these people were seeking the higher form of education, which was to bring the light out from ourselves. So we can protest, we can boycott, but if you have no sense of education, that light that's inside of you being brought out, no matter how much you do it, we're going to protest, we're going to boycott, and guess what? Next week, we'll return right back to whence we came. You see, we'll return right back to the sharecrop. And so education is the highest form of struggle. This is what Dr. John Henry Clark taught, and he said in his books that education is the highest form of struggle. If you notice, the whites, the Asians, any group that own and control any of our activities, they would give us a little bit of leeway in having something. They won't give us all the power, but they give us a little bit just to give us the illusion that we have some sort of control, knowing that we really don't. Along with this so-called or false illusion of control, in a sense, we wind up repaying them back and giving our funds and our economics, our education. We give everything back to them because we feel like they are our friend now. And in order to move forward, to make more money, we got to do it for everybody. So I think that we have to become a separate nation. We got to focus more on separation. I don't want to say segregation all over, because segregation was more so of a legal way, not only to just separate black folks, but to mistreat us in every sort of way, right? To mistreat us in all 9 activities, or all 9 activities that affects our life. I'm talking about separation in which, if we want to work amongst other people and do trade and all like that, that we have the right, that we have the opportunity to, or if we just want to completely withdraw, that we can do that as well. I think that once we become a separate people, and now we can begin to start building our nation. And again, in order to build a nation, you can't have a nation without education. Without education, you're nowhere. Without education, you wouldn't know what to do with the power that you receive. We can receive reparations next week. They can make an order and pass and say every black person that can trace their lineage to 1840, 1865, 1870, if you can trace your lineage there, we're going to supply you guys all with the money, land, tools, and resources. That money is going to go right back into these other groups' hands, and we're going to cater that right back. Reason why? Because we haven't been properly educated. I'm not saying all, because as the Queen Sister Lioness said earlier, that there are a lot of black people who are seeking the truth, they're getting the truth, and I know that to be a fact, because if you just take a look at Dr. Clark Anderson books, his books are selling out all of the time, but people don't follow it. You see, you hear Dr. Clark Anderson say, and he complains about black people not doing what he set in place and planned. Almost every black family has or have heard of the destruction of a black civilization. They have these books. That book lays out the blueprint for how we should engage and move forward with building a black nation. But because we haven't been properly educated in going over the book and take a closer look into the book, not looking at that book as just the destruction of civilization, but as a game plan, we wouldn't know what to do with our money even if we had it. You take another look, lastly, you take another look at someone like Dr. Amos Wilson, who titled his book, The Blueprint for Black Power. Thick book, maybe a bunch of pages. It's going to take a while to read. But he labeled it that. He always talked about the African conscious, economics. You have Dr. Jaranza Kunjufu, who made economic books for young folks and adults. But because we haven't been properly educated, from one, teach one. Each one will teach one. We haven't followed it, and in some ways we haven't been able to follow those type of books and those type of labels and looking at it and saying, this is the game plan. To be honest, Warren G, I don't know how many books can be written about our Black empowerment leading towards our liberation. Our elders have done it continuously, but because we haven't taken over the education game, we haven't taken over that lane right there and began to start educating our children and ourselves as a whole, not individual or two different groups, as a whole. We haven't taken over that, and the reason, if we haven't taken over that, how can we expect to move forward with our liberation properly? They've laid out the game plan, so I think it all starts and it ends with education, the proper education that's going to bring our light out, that's going to bring forth liberation, and that's going to continue forth our liberation so that we can use economics, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sexual relations, and war, and you can even add health in there. We can use these things to our advantage to push forth our nation and to make it last for the next 30 centuries. Proper education. This is what our ancestors had. They had proper education, and these white folks can't figure out how they built the pyramids and how you can't even fit a sheet of paper in between the rocks and everything. They can't figure out how you put Lewis Latimer in a room by himself with nothing, but then he comes out with a light bulb. You understand? So they can't understand. They don't understand how a man with a computer chip mind, such as Benjamin Banneker, can remember a map within one glance and re-illustrate and restructure the whole Washington, D.C. area and still have the manifestation of his ancestors to build an obelisk in between. They don't understand that, so they copy it. So what I'm saying is education is the proper form of liberation. That's what I think is going to help us sustain this momentum moving forward.
Golly. Man, line this crown, David. We got to do another one of these, man. Like, for real. Like, y'all hit me.
Can I speak, family? Can I speak?
Yo,
Can
yeah,
I speak?
yeah. I'm coming. I'm coming to you. I'm coming right to you. I just wanted to say we have to do another one of these. And before I go to Sister Sharon, because I want to get her, perspective, because this will be our last question. We've been on here. Me and Dave been on here 2 hours. We can go 8 hours. We have to understand that everybody is valued. You know what I'm saying? And when I mean everybody, I mean our Black folk. They have value in them. And what everybody is bringing to the table tonight is jewels. So this is not no extra. You can ask no compromise. I don't do the extra stuff. That's just not who I am. I'm not on here for clickbait. I don't go around here doing certain things to get people to join my spaces. We do this all the time. These are conversations me and him been having for months. But what I am liking is everybody's perspective on what Black folks should do. And what I also am very proud of, we're not on here arguing and bickering about shit that don't matter. Excuse my language, y'all, but because there's so many people out there, they just want to take so much time to argue and not come up with a solution. So that's what I just wanted to say that, and I appreciate that. Sister Sharon, drop us with some knowledge. Let us know what's happening.
Yes. What you said is so right. And the other brother, what he said, no compromise, what he said was right too. Like you said, everybody has value. And that's from the bum in the street, the black FBA bum, all the way up.
I'm sorry, I hit the button by accident, sis.
Oh, I
That's
thought
me.
it was me. Sorry
Oh,
about
No,
that.
I
I
was
thought it
I'm
was.
sorry.
I was hitting the
I was
hearts and
saying
the claps. I was hitting the hearts and the claps. I apologize.
My bad. I thought it
that's
was me.
okay.
I was trying to do the same thing. Go ahead, Sister Sharon. Go ahead.
That's all right. Like I said, everybody has value, from the bum to the rich person, and we just gotta teach our kids the truth of common sense, love, honor, and respect. You gotta love yourself and the next person to tell them the truth. You gotta love the next person to tell them the truth. You gotta honor yourself and your family name. You can't be out there fighting and showing your ass. And you got to respect each other. Respect yourself for not cursing. Respect the other person not cursing at them or messing with somebody else, or what, just doing degrading stuff. Also, what he said, to keep this momentum going, we need to, as you right, education, also financial boycott. We need to not buy nothing, not the Chinese food, not the McDonald's. We need to be owning factories and make our own coats and boots and stuff, the things that we want, because we've been making everybody from everybody rich. Everybody from Tim's to North Face. We need to have blackface. We need to have our own factories making our own stuff. We make all designers rich. Because as black people, we do everything big. Also, the reason why they attack us so much, like you say, how did Benjamin Banneker did what he did? Because the fact, genetically, we're the nines. The other races are the six. So that's why they go so hard on us. That's why they always trying to attack us and beat us down. Because the fact, no matter what we do, it's genetically coded that our nine, the nine that's in our skin, that's in our DNA, is more, our children are more apt to be genius than theirs. I'm sorry, I'm so excited because I finally got to speak. And also, the money is the spirit. There's only four things you can do with it: spend it, save it, invest it, and charity. If we don't invest in each other, it's never gonna come back to us. You understand? So that's where I land my plane. And thank you for letting me speak.
Oh man, please. I hope everybody listened to what she just said. She dropped real jewels. I'm gonna use that. So, sis, I will be using that when I speak to my family. There's only four things you can do with money, and money does have a spirit, and there's energy behind that. And I do agree. That's why when you broke, your energy is low, because that's how you've been conditioned. And when you got hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank, it's at an all-time high. You're so euphoric, you don't even know how to have discernment a lot of the times because of that. So I do agree with you, my sister. It is a
and
spirit. It is
and
energy.
money, if you look at it and break down the acronym, to sister's point, it's a white dude named, last name is Robert Price or Richard Price or something. He wrote this little book called The Abundance Book. But money stands for my own natural energy yield. My own natural energy yield. So to your
Mm.
point, is when you're vibrating high, your energy is high, your energy is yielding more abundance, money, and prosperity. But when your energy is low, you know what I'm saying, you broke. So just think of it in that acronym: money, my own natural energy yield.
Oh wow. Okay. Thanks.
Man, thank you.
And we
Let's
definitely
Look,
got
run
to
that
teach
back
our
again.
kids. And we definitely got to teach our children, because they have transvestites in the schools as we speak, reading stories to the children. So that's teaching them confusion. Because like I told my daughter, it's two things you cannot choose: the family you're born into, and the sex you are. You will one day marry a man, but you're gonna marry a man. Even if it's a good man or bad man, you're gonna marry a man. Period. And that's the way it goes. You can't choose that. So the fact is that they're trying to confuse the kids now. It's crazy. I tell my daughter, it's okay for a boy when you finish all this learning, all this school, and all this toys, one day you're gonna want to kiss a boy. That's normal. It's unnormal. It's not natural. It's not normal for two girls to kiss. It's not normal for two boys to kiss. That's how you explain to children. And they'll get it. They get it.
thank you, my sister Sharon. I know my sister Nikki, the God, wanted to speak. If you wanted to speak, I can, give you the here. I'll send you an invite to speak because I know she wanted to speak. If not, that's fine too. We go to our sister, Ms. Giselle, and you can go ahead and drop some knowledge before we get up out of here.
Oh yeah, I swear it feel like we in church half of the time. That's what I love about spaces, and that whole spiritual conversation. You're absolutely right, and this is really where our people are fellowshipping. When I tell you, we're raising each other's vibrations. So, and I guess that's raising our currency as well, as Lioness Crow said, and Sister Sharon said. I'm sorry, I got my kids, my teenagers in the background, so you know how they are when they on these games. But what I wanted to speak to the question, now that we're awakening, with necessary steps that we should keep to get the momentum going. Okay, first off, the first and foremost thing is we got to remove our people from the white media, because people wonder why our people have this fear for one another. We didn't have this major fear for one another until our people became left the window sills. Because remember, back in the day, that was the first internet, that was the first Wi Fi. Everybody sitting out the windows, sitting on your porch and outside communicating with one another. And now we're having the television tell us stuff. And keep in mind, the television is ran by the same people who is pushing for our demise and our ultimate, yeah, our ultimate demise. And when you think about it, some of these news reports back in the day, they used to have victims, family members, and neighbors come out and say stuff. Now they're just giving corner locations, saying, okay, there were 3 shootings on the corner of such and such and such and such. There's 4 shootings over here. It sounds more so like they're giving tallies to militia groups, but that's another story. I'll take my tinfoil hat off on that one, because if you run around some of these cities, everything ain't all that they say it is, and in some places it's even worse than what they say. So yeah. So that's one thing to do. We got to get our people off of their media sources and stop giving so much credibility to it, because they tell us who to hate just on those media sources. And we need to start pushing up our black media platforms. That matters, because we believe us, like, believe it or not, I believe us over CNN. I would believe us over CNN any day. And that's just me. The next thing that I would say that we need to do, and what Jay was talking about, our ancestors, I think we need to take it a little bit further. We need to go on and say that, see ourselves as a continuation of our ancestors, an extension of them. Because when we see ourselves connected, that makes you obligated to push further. That makes you obligated to be better. You can't be doing what they were doing 20 years ago, because that means you ain't doing right for the whole group, because we ultimately we do belong to one another. And we got to remember that this we are in a race. We have to remember that this is a race and we are the team. um what else did I said? We need to practice group economics, like Dr. Claude Anderson always speaks and talk about. That group economics is the most important, because we can create our own economies in so many ways. Believe it or not, because we're in these beta spaces, we are creating an economy right here. We're creating a culture on these platforms. Understand that and use that power wisely. Don't let them make us the consumer. Even though we're consuming right now because we're on their stuff, we should take the high place. And when we notice them doing something wrong to us on these platforms, we can make or break their platforms in every way. Um, Another thing, I think we all need to learn our history, because I think education, when we're talking about education and like getting moving forward, especially in movements like the reparations movement, etc., the understanding our history, again, it connects us, it makes us that extended family, that extension of our ancestors, that puts the obligation on us to be better. So our education, and I ain't talking about just education of our history, but also education of things that we can compete in. If you got that smart child that's good in math, we need to get a whole group of math kids together and start pushing them, and we give them the accolades. So they're not looking to our open oppressor to give them accolades, because we control what's dope or not. Keep that in mind. Another thing is also what is it? It'll also teach our kids and our people to naturally delineate. We'll be like, hey, wait a minute, this is what we do. Our kids are proud to say what they do. Look how quick to say, look, I identify as by something, not bisexual. Is like a couple of other things. They got like 50 billion titles. You know what I'm saying? They quick to do that because it feel like they belong to something. So people are running to say, look, I'm buying binary, whatever they call it, or I'm gay, or I'm a trans. It's like, yay, look at my badge of honor. So we need to be placing those badges on our kids. I ain't knocking nobody's group. You go do what you do, but guess what? This is what we do here. And since we the dopest whoever did anything, people gonna want to do what we do here, be what we do here. So that's where the power comes in. Our kids will start naturally delineated, like those kids did up in PG County back in December, who were it was a fight that broke out in the school. The black kids don't like getting their clothes and their sneakers messed up. The Hispanic kids wanted to throw food. The black kids didn't want to. So the Hispanic kids threw the food. Then they proceeded to throw chairs, and the black kids tore their behinds up. The news reporter positioned the black kids as if they were the bad kids or the worst, because they put like an innocent, like little Hispanic boy on there talking about, I fear there's so much intimidation and stuff. And then you turn around and you're looking at the black kids, they're like, y'all blowing it out of proportion. First of all, they started it, and second of all, it was a food fight. We ended it, and that was it. You know, and that's, see how they all came together. Our kids came together on that, and they didn't even know to do it. They just naturally did it. So again, the last thing is you got to get active. You once you get your education, you know, you didn't delineate it, got your family on code and your kids on point. It's time for you to get activated. Whatever it is that you do, I don't care where you are in your place. You can be halfway broke. Start fighting in whatever space that you're in, because you were born for this. I think all of us were born for this moment right now. It's no surprise that we all came to this room, because I just was floating through the halls and I came here, and I find myself doing that in a lot of spaces. We got to know this is a God fight. So we're being driven together, and you got something inside of you that you got to add to the fight. It don't matter like what place you're in. Eventually, you're going to be exactly where you're supposed to be. So I say just activate and get to work. And the last thing is set your kids up to compete, because while we up here swinging, we can't have our little Billy, little Ray Ray, little Keith, or whoever out here going in a whole opposite direction, because that's how we keep losing and having to start all the way over. We've came too damn far to go all the way back, starting with the next generation. We too dope for that. And our kids are ready. They need that motivation. And I can see 10 years from now, we're going to do some stuff that they didn't even believe was going to happen. So I'll land there.
Thank you, my sister. I appreciate it. Look, man, we're gonna conclude it. We've been on for a minute. Look, all of y'all, please DM me. Me and my brother David, we've been doing this for a while, and it's so funny. We do this all the time, and it just be me and him. And sometimes people will jump in, and sometimes people don't. But I just learned so much from. I call him my OG because the dude is very knowledgeable, and he's doing a lot of good things in the community. This dude's got nonprofits. He's got all kinds of things. He's a very, very, very important person that I feel like others need to hear. And he does a lot of things in the community for our youth. So that's why we always do it. Like we do it all the time. And that's why I think David really messed with me, because he know I ain't clout chasing. That was like one of the first things when we started chopping it up. I'm like, bro, you should be on like satellite radio or something, bro. Like, and I wasn't playing, because I'm like, bro, what you saying is very, very intricate to what a lot of kids need to hear. So this is what we do. My sister, Lioness Crown, we definitely, I gotta get y'all two again. I don't care who joined the space, and there's no diss to nobody else. But I just want to ask y'all questions back and forth because they dropping jewels, especially if you teaching a class on Dr. Frances Welsing's book. I know that book is fire, and I know what you're teaching is fire because I read it and I gave it to one of my coworkers, and we had like a 45-minute conversation about that book. She was tripping after she read that book. She said, "Man, this book is too deep." So
Yeah, so I forgot to add one thing, brother.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been reading the ISIS papers since I was 16 years old. I promise you, I kid you not. I forgot to land that point when I started speaking. I'm 38 years old. I first got my first copy of the ISIS paper was when I was 16, and Dr. Wilson, of course, was also living in my neighborhood, and she was at Howard. So I wanted to name that. I've also been reading Queen of Fu, A Sacred Woman, about womanhood and feminine energy and all that stuff since I was 16 years old as well. And I wanted to just sort of double down on our sister Miss Giselle's point and our brother No Compromise's point and everyone else's point, Sister Sharon, about education. Education is key, and it's never too late for us to pick up some of these books and start learning. Shout out to Tia Marie, who's in the space. She's also an educator. But when we arm our children with this knowledge in their formative years, it sticks. See, you can't tell me nothing about white supremacy and racism in a class, when I'm in high school or middle school or in high school or college, when I've been reading Dr. Welsing's work since I was like 16, and that's what we want to introduce to our children so they can be foolproof, for lack of a better word. So I just wanted to name that the earlier we get these works in, the better. Miseducation of the Negro. I can also put together a book list. We need to read Yurugu by Dr. Marimba Ani, which is a critique on African or Eurocentric thought, and it really juxtaposes what African-centered thought and culture is and what the Eurocentric paradigm is and how it's in opposition to each other. And she was an anthropologist. So there's so many things that we can introduce ourselves to, but the younger, the better. So if we get into these spaces and they're being recorded or you see something, please share it with the young people. Thank you.
Sister, I'm gonna be on your bumper about, hey, we doing another spaces. You gonna be like, I'm getting tired of FBA all day because that was one of the things before I'm done, before we end this space. David knows we're gonna redo. I'm gonna give my brother No Compromise, David, because I want to redo. We did a space about the Black church, about Black Christianity and the Black church, and it was a great space. It was a great space. I know, because me and David, we grew up in the same type of Black church. And let me tell you, why we was praising Cesare Borgia, who is the white Jesus, we praising him. Fred Price has Dr. Claude Anderson at his church in 1997. And I don't know nothing about that. And I'm in LA and from LA. So I would like to do a part 2 of that. And not this.
That would be dope.
Yeah, not to. I think we need to do it because this is not to disparage Black Christians. I got them all in my family, and they get upset when I say certain things. But I'm not disrespectful, and I'm not trying to start a debate. But I feel like we need to start discussing the pros of the Black church, but the cons too, because you got a lot of big Black churches, but out of all these big Black churches in LA, mega churches, Fred Price was the only one who had Dr. Claude Anderson at his church. And I don't think people know how monumental that is, because most Black churches fall under the 501c3, who, if I'm not mistaken, that was made up by the Rockefeller Foundation to control religion, so you can't speak about Black empowerment and politics and all this other stuff. And I'm not going to go into all that, but I just think we need to have a part 2, David. Like, we need to have a part 2. We need to have this system on. Everybody that's in here, we need to do it. Just DM me. Everybody DM me. What times are they available? Lioness Crown, please DM me. Just like, what times are you available? Because we need to do that. Because you've been reading Dr. Frances Welsing's book since you were 16. Do you know when I read the book? I read
When?
her book. I read her book in 2014 or 15. You read it. You read it when you were 16. I read it in 2014. So that should tell you how far behind a lot of us are that's going to these black Christian churches, and they're not teaching financial literacy. They're not teaching you Dr. Clyde Anderson, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. Like that book, when I first read that book, everything started to make sense. And then I started watching movies like Boomerang, and I said, oh, they got that from Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. So whoever watched Boomerang with Eddie Murphy and Martin and David Allen Greer is at the pool hall, and Martin was talking about the black, the white ball knocks all the other balls out. Those are the racists. If you watched, that's a Dr. Francis Cress Welsing analogy. That's where they got that from. If you go read that book, because she breaks down the pool table, the football, the gun, which is the great equalizer, the cigarette versus the cigar. Oh, yeah, I read that book. It's very deep. I'm just envious of you because you read it when you were 16. When I was 16, I was singing in a choir playing the drums. I couldn't even tell you about reading no book like that. So I think we need to do a part 2. And sister, whether you get at me or not, I'm going to DM you and find out when you're free so we can get that part 2 going. Man, I appreciate everybody listening, coming to the space. And we're going to get that part 2, David. Let's do that next week. Let's do that Wednesday next week. Let's get that part 2, my brother.
With it.
All right, everybody, have a good night. I appreciate everybody staying on. We did almost 3 hours. I appreciate everybody. Everybody's words were very powerful. And I always say this when I do a podcast. I always say, stay in your lane. Don't look at somebody else's lane and get upset. Admire their lane, learn from it, and keep it moving. Stay in your lane and focus on your lane, man, because if you don't, that's going to breed destruction, self-hate, self-doubt, and then you're going to end up looking at your brother or sister as the enemy, and they are your teammate. And I'm going to end with this. Dr. Clyde Anderson says racism is the competition of resources. We're in competition with every other racial group. We can't be in competition with each other. That's why I call David my OG. Because this is not about, well, I got to read more books so I can know more than David. No, it's about I can learn from this brother. He's on my team. So we got to understand that, focus on that. And my sister, we definitely going to be hitting you up. I'm going to be hitting up a lot of y'all. Y'all going to be like, dang, this dude, FBA, low-key, kind of crazy because he hit me up on my DM. I'm hitting up everybody because we need to do a part 2 of what me and him already did. Y'all love, live life, stay safe. Man, keep studying, keep reading. Positive vibes and energy, and just raise that vibration as much as you can, man. And y'all take care. Y'all have a good evening.